welcome to the Brand Center. It's great to have people in our house to come visit and see what's popping. But before we dig into it, I want to thank the Brand Center team that have all been like, we're going to get this done, it's going to be great. And I'm like, it's early in the morning, no one's going to show up. You've proved us wrong, so glad you're here. My faculty and staff have been amazing. I saw Grant. Where are you, Grant? There you are. Stand up for a second. So we talked earlier about, you heard earlier that this chapter has been around for 10 years. Well, in year 2, when I first started at the Brand Center, Grant was like, I want to meet this guy, Vann. I want you to do Creative Mornings. I was like, no, we're not going to do that because I just got here. He's like, we're going to have you here. I'm like, and I told my colleagues at the time, it's never going to happen. So thank you for that. And then, so thank you, sir. I appreciate that. That coupled with Benita, who introduced me, who asked me twice, the first time I wasn't able to come, and we had a great alum come and speak on my behalf. So because we realize here at the Brand Center how important creative community is, we want to make sure that we help facilitate that, whether I'm here or not, right? And also to the Creative Mornings crew, the fact that y'all wake up this early, because y'all were here at like 7 o'clock, whatever y'all were here, just running around, putting stuff up and happy and singing, and I'm like, I can't, because I do cosplay as a morning person. It's real. The pain is real. But I do want to welcome you all. I have to put the doctor on it because my mom was like, you spend too much time, money, and effort to do that. But please, no. It's all about mama, baby. It's for mama. It's important, though, if you see me on the street, if you talk, Vann, I am Vann, okay? All that's, I have a degree on my wall at home that just says I stayed in school way too long and paid too much money, okay? So just know, hey Vann, what's up? If you see me, please say hello. Please forgive me because I'm bad with names and faces. So if I'm like, oh wait, tell me, it's not because I don't love you, I haven't met you, it's because I'm old, okay? So let's just, but I was asked to speak on parallels, and I have to be honest with you, the whole idea of coming to speak publicly and be around folks kind of got me a little shook anyway. So talking about parallels was really an interesting kind of endeavor for me to just be here and share my thoughts on it. And I had a lot of ideas, a lot of things that were like, boom, I got it, boom. And my first one for all my nerds, we have some nerds? Any? Okay. 1967, first idea was about Mirror, Mirror, Mr. Spock had a goatee, and there's stuff popping. I was like, oh, easy, parallel, I got it. My wife was like, you're a nerd. So absolutely not. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna up my game. How about Miles Morales, Spider-Verse? She's like, you're even more of a nerd than I thought. And I was like, all right, so let me be kind of contemporary and talk about, Dua Lipa and, the parallels between how the music that she dealt with is really sampled from back in the day when I was a kid. I was feeling it. I found this, and I just needed to share this. It has nothing to do with my presentation, but I was like, someone else did this, I was like, oh, she really did borrow stuff from everywhere. And then someone did this, which I thought was hilarious. And all of these great, fun, creative things, and we want to enjoy what goes on in the world and talk about that. But today feels different. Outside of this space, the world feels a little heavy. And so I thought it was important to talk about things that are a little more profound, at least in my world. And so I hope I don't disappoint anybody here. But I did reflect heavily on this idea of parallels and really thought about what does that mean, especially in the context of what our chapter in Kuala Lumpur, what they were trying to get across. And somehow, because as Andrew was reading earlier, I was like, somehow our words got slightly juxtaposed. So I'm just going to say this is a paraphrased version of it. But the words really resonated with me. Just look out of the window at the home or office across the street. We exist side by side with strangers, always keeping the same distance of anonymity between us, even though we have so much in common. All of us trying to build a better life for ourselves and our loved ones. Of course, we are not carbon copies. The differences make our lives our own. Her black coffee, his energy drink, their chamomile tea. So, we may never see eye to eye. After all, mathematics proves that parallel lines never meet. But unlike train tracks, our paths don't run in straight lines. We can meet someone new at every turn. Look someone in the eye, smile, and reach across that gap between us and make a connection. These words truly hit me hard. Think about for a moment about the view from your home office, maybe when you've passed a building that you've seen 100 times, or glanced through its windows, catching glimpses of life unfolding inside. Someone making coffee, someone pacing on their cell phone, or just someone staring back at you, which is weird, but someone staring back, just like you, going, hey, I went to Creative Mornings. But we exist close enough to see each other's lights flicker on and off during dusk. We hear the laughter or muted conversations through thin apartment walls, especially if it's a new building. Close enough to share the same air, the same city, the same daily rhythms, right? Yet somehow we're still worlds apart. Because we live in an era, despite the illusion of connection, we're further apart than ever before. I was told that this presentation had to be personal. Hence why I didn't have Dua Lipa as a part of my presentation. And I have to be honest, I have to be truly honest. I'm not the kind of person who likes to be in the spotlight. Right? It's a personal struggle. I'm what you call a introvert by nature and extrovert by profession. So I can do all this, I can tell these jokes, whatever. Then I'm gonna go home and sleep for a month. But I thought it was important because it's hard sometimes to really put yourself out there and expose the layers of who you are and just be like, I don't know, this 100 and some odd people, dear God, what am I doing? But because we live in an era where connections are so hard and so far apart, we all have stories. I have one, you have one, but sometimes sharing them feels like standing in front of an open window during a storm, vulnerable and exposed to the winds of perception, the weight of just anticipation. It's easier sometimes to focus on my work, talk about creative ideas, but not really step out and share who I am. But my thoughts kept going back to parallels. I began to think about the spaces between us, those salient, unspoken barriers that shape our lives. I thought about where these parallels are enforced and where the forces divide us, and the moments that also bring us together. I thought about the invisible lines that we follow every day, not because we choose to, but because they're etched into the world around us so seamlessly that we rarely notice them. And then I realized at that moment that was the whole point and what I really wanted to share with you. The stories we hold on to, the ones we hesitate to share, are often the ones that matter the most. They are bridges between us. They share our perspectives, our experiences, the lives that separate. We feel like that separates our lives. But in truth, we're all intertwined. We just have to have that courage to step across the line. So I asked myself, what story do I have to tell? What can I offer that bring these parallel lines together? And that's when I realized exactly the story that I wanted to tell. You can tell I'm wandering, right? It's just wandering through in the rain. But the story I wanted to tell you about was about this guy and his family. His name is William Ford Sr., born in Henrico County in Virginia in 1892. A devoted husband, a father of three, the youngest wasn't born yet when this picture was taken, navigating the harsh realities of this segregated city. He lived in Jackson Ward, a neighborhood that was once known as the Harlem of the South, a place where black business owners thrived and, against all odds, had a place of resilience despite what society said they needed to be. But no matter how strong that community was, the outside world created and defined limits for them. William Ford Sr. worked right up here at the Jefferson Hotel, starting out at their old carriage house, and then as a dishwasher, and later becoming a doorman. He opened doors for men and women who would have opened the doors for him. He moved through marble hallways and polished silver trays and attended to guests who enjoyed luxuries that he could only dream of. Grand chandeliers above him glittered with opulence, but the light never shone on him as an equal. He worked at this grand hotel, but was never allowed to stay there as a guest. Imagine that. Imagine spending years of your life at a place where every surface gleamed with elegance, where chandeliers dripped with crystal, where the scent of fresh linens, I will learn English, sorry, and expensive cigars filled the air. A place that was designed for comfort, for indulgence, for those who had the privilege to belong. And yet, for William Ford Sr., it was only a place of labor to carry suitcases through that marble-floored lobby, but rest his feet he could never do there. He could polish those silver trays, but never dine from them. He could open those doors, but those same doors would never be opened for him. Day after day, he stood in a uniform that made him invisible, seen only in the role he played, not in the person he was. When the wealthy guests arrived, they were welcomed with warmth, dignity, and deference. But for him, there were no welcomes, no recognition, no right for him to exist, no space for him to be an equal. Imagine working under a ceiling where you could never sleep beneath. Imagine serving in a place where you could never truly be seen. Imagine knowing deep down that no matter how hard you worked, no matter how much you sacrificed, no matter how well you carried yourself, it didn't matter because a salient barrier stood between you and the life on the other side of those doors. Not because of anything that he lacked or he had done anything wrong, but because of who he was, because of the color of his skin, because the world had drawn an invisible line that was immovable, a line between those who belonged and those who never would. And what's even more haunting about this is that he knew it. He accepted it. Not because it was right, but because it was just the way things were. Because survival meant understanding the rules, even if they were unjust. I imagine him walking, along the streets, Broad Street, looking at these tall buildings that weren't really built for him, but feeling that he was on the outside. I imagine him rolling up his sleeves, pocketing his pride, and pressing forward. Because what choice did he have? This was the world he lived in. Well, he died at the age of 46, worn down, no doubt, by the weight of a world that demanded twice the effort for half the recognition. That was America of 1939. If we look closely, if we're truly honest with ourselves, how much of that still happens today? There's a parallel, this building, where we are today. You see, where there was once a carriage house, there's now the Brand Center, where William Ford Sr., my great-grandfather, hold on. I told, let's reel it in. Let's reel it in. All right. They said I had to talk for 20 minutes, so I thought I'd cry through at least 5 of them. It would get us over the hump. Where my great-grandfather worked. The irony has not been lost on me. I stand here in front of you being heard. You hear my voice. You're understanding. So, 1, You honor me by doing that, but you also help his legacy, know his story. You are in his space. All right, let's get back to it, people. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you for that. And yet, while my story has changed, some things have not. We are currently living in an American parallel. It's not a geographical term, but it's a mindset. America in 1939 was a place of deep divides. Segregation defined where you could live, eat, love, and even dream. Today, we no longer have separate water fountains, but we drink from separate streams of information. Technology has created a sense of connection where we feel we're closer than we've ever been before, yet it has driven us further apart. Social media allows us to share messages globally in seconds, but it also has created echo chambers where we only hear what we already believe. Algorithms curate our feeds, reinforcing biases, widening the gulf between us. We are running parallel, never connecting in the area of truth. Despite this hyperconnectivity, we're isolated, seeing the same world through entirely different lenses. Lenses shaped not by laws, but by the invisible hands of AI, engagement-driven content. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about politics. I'm not worried about whether you're left or right. It's about community and how we develop community, how we process the truth. It's how we decide whether who's worthy of our attention, our empathy, or even our outrage. And here's where we as creatives have a unique responsibility, because creativity has always been the great disruptor. Creatives are driven by vision. To create something, to build something, to make something new. Content creators, it's working. All right. Content creators, on the other hand, are driven by what works, what appeals to their audiences, what gets folks engaged, and what generates likes, and what really pulls out people's attention. Both are valuable. But here's the challenge. It is time for us to use our creativity to break these parallels, to cross lines, to disrupt the echo chambers, to create work that doesn't just entertain, but enlightens and connects. Because right now, content is often more crafted for algorithms and not for true impact. Opinions shift to gain followers, to go viral, even when the message loses its integrity. This noise pollutes our collective consciousness, making it harder for the truth to rise above the static. Bots, AI, algorithms flood our feeds in a clamor that makes it so loud that genuine human connection is lost. I'll give you an example. And again, I want to underscore, I will speak about politics, but this is not to be political. A few years ago, Jackson Hinkle was known as a progressive political activist advocating for environmental policies and leftist causes. He built a reputation on thoughtful, progressive discussions, engaging in political discourse that aligned with mainstream left-wing activism. But then something changed. As he gained traction online, he started to shift his messaging. At first, it was subtle, minor tweaks to his rhetoric, aligning more with controversial and contrarian viewpoints. But soon the shift became more drastic. He began to promote his own MAGA communism. So an ideological fusion between far right and far left principles. This new approach was aggressive, inflammatory, and tailor-made for virility. And it worked. His follower count skyrocketed. His videos and his tweets started getting more engagement, more than ever before. His content was shared widely, not just among his old audience, but also by an entirely different new one. An entirely different new one. Why that doesn't sound right in my head? Soon, he was being amplified by state-run media from Russia to Iran, further expanding his reach. But here's the problem. He wasn't saying what he originally believed in anymore. He was saying what the algorithm rewarded. As Iram Ahmed, the head of the Center of Countering Digital Hate, aptly put it, Mr. Hinkle became a part of a sort of new cadre of people who exploit the algorithm's insatiable desire for highly contentious content to benefit themselves economically. And that's the reality of the digital world we live in. Incentives that don't encourage truth, but encourage outrage. They reward certainty, not curiosity. They favor what's engaging, but not necessarily what's honest. And in the midst of this, genuine human connection is lost. Because the goal is to win rather than understand. When every conversation is a performance rather than a dialogue, we don't see each other as people anymore. We see each other as avatars on the opposing side. And here is where the parallels lines are unbroken. But there's hope. Creativity is revolutionary. As Gil Scott-Heron famously said, not Malcolm X, but I thought so, the revolution will not be televised. But maybe, just maybe, we can all make it go viral. What does this mean for us? Well, we can't just chase virility. We have to create content that has a positive impact. So what does it mean? Before we post, we should ask, does it contribute to connection or division? It means that before we write or design or create anything, whether it be paint or compose, we should ask, who are we serving? It means storytelling that doesn't reflect our own experiences, but amplifies the unheard. Because the real revolution isn't about likes, it's about listening. So I ask you this, when history looks back on this moment, on this era, will we be the ones who just kept scrolling past each other? Lost in parallel worlds, never connecting? Or will we be the ones who break the cycle? I hope that everyone in this room will help to break the divide and make connections. The choice is yours. Thank you. Oh, I'm supposed to answer questions, right? Thank you.
Vann, thank you so very much. We would love to take some questions.
I promise I won't cry. Deal.
I don't know, I was crying a little, so. Question.
Very good. Thank you so much. That was a great, inspirational conversation. I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
So we are here in the App Brand Center that's all about creating advertising. A core part of advertising in our current era is the virality that you talked about. How do you effectively balance wanting to create stuff that's viral, but also achieves those noble aims that you talked about?
If I'm honest, and this is a safe space, right?
Yes.
If I'm honest, you've got to find where you can break those barriers and make that change. You can't just always be out there with your placard going, I'm going to change the world. Sometimes you have to be covert. So I remember when I was an intern for a show back in the day called America's Most Wanted. And remember that show, everybody? And while I was at America's Most Wanted, I was also an undergrad at Howard University in DC. And I won't say I was militant, but I was a little militant, right? And so there was a conversation about black on black crime. And I'm sitting there and there's a producer and our host, John Walsh, and they were talking about, we're gonna do this, and I was getting heated, like, well, you don't talk about white on white crime. Like, I was all over it, right? Then I went back to school, and I was talking to one of my professors, and I was like, yo, can you believe they were gonna do that? Da 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 da. He said, shut up. But he said, sometimes you have to be quiet to get into a space to make change. And I carried that with me. And I fast forward to sitting with a client. I was a CD at the time at BBDO in New York, and sitting with a client. And there's a bunch of clients around. I'm the lead creative in this, and we were about to pitch a product, one of the Snickers products. And they were like, so we want to make sure there's diversity in all of our spots. We want to show the world that we care about diversity. And I had a moment, and it felt so good, where I was like, I will ensure that there's more diversity in these spots than in this room. So part of it is finding where and when you can insert yourself. I think because in a little bit of my speech, we always want to scream everything now, right? I'm mad about this thing in this moment. No, chill out. Sometimes you got to gather those nuts so you have enough so you can start throwing them at people, right? So, but it's just again, you have to find your place, space, and time. Not everybody is moving in the same place, okay? And no matter, as you move up, you will always still see boundaries and people who are pushing against what you think is right. It's never going to be easy. It's called a struggle for a reason. Did I answer your question? I said a lot of words. Okay. Any other questions?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for finally making it to do this presentation. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
How or when did you discover your family's connection to this building?
It was funny. So when I got the job here, so for all of us who are so always on our phone, if you go to remember phone numbers, so when I was growing up, everybody would remember 50 phone numbers. You remember your mama's phone number, your grandma, all of it. Nothing was in your phone. You knew it by heart. Yeah. Well, if you go over a generation before that, folks knew every block. They were better than GPS. So, and I told my grandmother, hey, I think I'm going to come. I've got this gig. It's at the Brand Center. It's great. It's on Jefferson, right near the highway. And she looked at me and goes, "You mean the old carriage house?" My dad was there, right? And so it's just one of those things where it's like she knew. So she was actually. I'm not going to go into that part, but she was very clear on, and the old folks around were very clear on the pride of history and your ancestors calling you back, and get in preparation for being here with you today. Like when I left, of course it was raining because that's how life is. I left yesterday and walked through the Jefferson. And it's a big difference. And if you walk through the Jefferson, if you have time today, and look at it through different eyes, and understand where we were in 1939, because we all can enjoy it now. I had my wedding anniversary there, right? That was a part of me kind of going, we won! Which is a little bit of the earlier question, like, when you have your moment, go show it. So I could walk through the Jefferson and walk down the stairs with my bride and go, yeah, we're here, what? But anyway, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thanks, Vann. I really appreciated and loved how you said, in the current digital space, we feel more connected, but we're actually often more disconnected and in our own algorithm and digital echo chambers. And you made the point that historically creatives have been disruptors. Have you seen, and I appreciate your call to action on, like, we have to figure out as creatives how to disrupt these divides, and especially I think in a digital space, it's hard to see how we're divided sometimes. We don't see our own echo chamber. Have you seen examples, or do you have thoughts around how we can be disruptors when it's so hard to even see our own echo chambers that we're in? I'm
about to say something that's so corny, but it's true. Be authentic. Right now, again, this will be Generation X knows. So everybody knows, what's his name? Max Headroom? Yeah. Okay. That's what we're creating right now. So it used to be on Instagram or TikTok, real people saying real things. Now people, I'm trying to monetize it, so I've got AI creating a fake me to do da-da-da-da-da. And you're copying other people's reels, and we're doing the same stuff. You see the same people, or different people saying the same thing over and over again. You have got to do something new. You have got to create something, and when you're ready, again, say something controversial. Get people in a way that's moving the ball forward, not just to entertain. I want to get people up to clean, and that is a life decision. That sounds weird, but it's a life decision. What are you going to stand for? What are you going to do? I'm going to tell you right now, in this political world that we live in, even though I gave little disclaimers, you saw red and you saw blue. Someone could take a clip of that and say Vann is a radical. Right? No, absolutely. Like, he's a radical. He hates the left. He talked about this leftist kid who turned right. He talked about MAGA, all of that. But that's the risk I'm willing to take to share what I truly feel. We have to be comfortable with that because we're watching a lot of things happening in the world. Now, I don't just mean in the U.S., in the world, that if we sit by and watch it happen, it only gets worse. So we have to take responsibility for the world we live in and the direction it's going. So don't be afraid. I guess that's the answer to your question. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you could have just whispered it to me.
No, we're in a big space. My name is Cindy. Thank you again for sharing. My great-grandmother had her 40-year career at Dominion Power.
Oh, wow.
Vepco.
Okay.
So when you were sharing that was super personal to me. And my perspective is usually legacy, and it's not just historical, because I used to be a history teacher, but it's going forward.
That's correct.
Two-part question.
Okay.
What would you say to your great-granddad now, here? And what would you say to your great-grandchildren?
Oh, you're a troublemaker. Wow.
Yes, I've been told that.
What I would say to him is, I hope I make you proud. I hope I'm doing the work that your effort led to. And I think I have, maybe in some of the ways, my parents were a part of, my father was arrested as a part of the Richmond 34, folks that were arrested going down to Tallheimers for those who grew up in Richmond. That legacy moving forward, right? So we move in different ways, but I hope he's proud. For my great-grandkids, I'm an old dad, so I've got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. And I look at them every day, and I'm like, what is the world that we're leaving, right? So I hope I have great-grandkids. But what I would say to them is, I hope that we fixed the things that were broken during my lifetime. We have to, I believe, and I don't know how much folks know about this, but I used to think, oh, it's all about being an intellectual, kind of W.B. Du Bois. You have to be talented 10th and all of that. And then I realized, now we all need to be Booker T. Washington, okay? All right, we got to do the work. Now, I'm saying it to your white folks too. We got to all do the work, right? And we have to really, this is the community. This is it. I don't care. So, Gen Xers, I had this conversation. Please don't yell at me. Please don't tweet bad things about me. But I had this conversation the other day with a colleague, and it's like, so back in the day, we didn't care. I don't care whether you're straight, gay, black, blah, blah, all of that. Either you were cool or you weren't. Either you were doing the right things or you weren't. So I think about some of the conversations that I hear folks say today, and I'm like, I don't know whether Boy George was gay or straight, but man, his music was dope, right? Prince was wearing them assless chaps, but man, he was playing that shit, what? Right? We didn't care about that stuff. And sometimes, and I'm not trying to disrespect anybody's lifestyle, I want to be very clear, but it's what we focused on. We focused on the community piece. It wasn't perfect, okay? I don't want to make it seem like it's perfect. But what social media especially has done is distracts us. And we're all, I care about this, I care about this, I care. No, you need to care about this. And the people that are coming behind us. You said legacy, that's what we need to be caring about. And our focus gets wound up, and I do it. I'm gonna tell you, last night I was supposed to have, he's like, well, make sure that you practice your speech. And make sure there was, and I'm at home going, oh, yeah, oh my God, that's hilarious. I need that belt buckle, So we have to get our priorities straight and our focus, and just know community builds that legacy. And that legacy, matter of fact, everybody in here is too old to be talking about legacy. Our legacy are the ones that aren't here yet. We need to be preparing the nest for them. But we're so caught up in ourselves and our own lives, and there's a lot going on. I get it. But why do you care? We should be caring about because those behind us are going to have to live in the world we leave them. We've got to do better. I guess I can do one more. Is that the
Thank
last
you.
one? No, you did like get out. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Vann,